Thanks for being here. Subscribe to Cheating Stories Best, so you don't miss new stories.
What do you think, my dear friend? Is it possible from the first meeting to realize that a person will probably cheat on you in the future? After all, there are certain red flags in behavior that can give you a clue. And so, my dear viewer, the hero of this story is in love with a girl, and despite the red flags in her behavior, he still binds himself to her through the bonds of marriage. What will come of it? Let's listen and find out. And while you're listening, don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe to the channel. Let's go. This weekend, it's our group's turn to throw a party, which happens every month and a half. 3 couples, Anna, her friend Sally, and her husband Carl, our neighbor Jackie, and her current husband Trent, gathered at one of our houses. Sometimes additional guests came, but the main group consisted of 6 of us. We were all in our 20s and childless, whether by choice or circumstance. Sally and Carl didn't want children, and Trent had 2 children from a previous marriage who now lived with his ex-wife. He was determined to get custody of them. There were always snacks, drinks, and a certain theme at our gatherings, whether it was a regular game of chasing, card games, or watching sports on TV. We always had a good time. When we gathered at Trent's house, we swam in his pool if the weather allowed. The girls, especially Sally and my wife Anna, were involved in planning these parties. Anna loved to chat on the phone and was great at organizing events. She's a voluptuous woman with wavy light brown hair and a playful personality. Sometimes it upsets me that she craves attention, but as far as I know, she hasn't crossed any boundaries during our relationship. My family still lives in my hometown on the Oregon coast. I received a finance degree from a state university and became a certified financial planner after passing the necessary exams. I was somewhat reserved, but I was passionate about studying money markets, statistics, and the history of our economy. My father, Joseph, worked as an insurance agent in our city and had a solid and reliable reputation in the financial community, which inspired me with confidence. I named myself after him, using the initials JT, and started renting an office in his building. I diligently set up meetings with clients, telling them about my conservative approach to steadily increasing their money. As an employee of a national company, I had access to a huge amount of financial data that confirmed my strategies. In addition, I devoted a significant amount of time to independent research. This job brought me great pleasure. In the first year of my work, I achieved some success. My clients made significant profits, and their investments exceeded market expectations. Working with my father in the same office, I inherited many of his longtime clients, who also became my own. I met regularly with my clients to better understand their needs and provide a personalized approach, which they appreciated. However, as I moved into my second year of work, I realized that the lack of business opportunities in our city made it difficult to achieve my financial goals. As an economics student, I understood that relying only on local businesses wasn't enough to sustain myself. Since the weather was good, we decided to have an outdoor party on our spacious terrace, which was equipped with a barbecue and an open kitchen. I asked Anna to suggest a theme for the evening, and she proposed playing a fun and exciting game that everyone would enjoy. "Isn't that great, JT?" she exclaimed. There was a small competition to see who could throw the most fun party. Personally, I just appreciated the company, as well as the delicious food and drinks. I must admit, I'm not indifferent to wine, and there were a couple of times when I allowed myself an extra glass or 2. "What kind of game is this?" I asked. "Don't worry, JT, I'll take care of it. You focus on the barbecue." I was quite satisfied with this arrangement. Thinking about who would gather that evening, I decided that Sally and Carl would be the first to arrive. Sally and Anna have been close friends since high school. Sally, who is slightly overweight but well-built, has a full figure with large breasts. Anna also shares this fashion choice, sometimes requiring my intervention in their wardrobe. Carl, a diesel engine repair mechanic at a well-known shop in our city, is a calm and polite man who doesn't seem to mind Sally's playful flirtation and showing off her cleavage. Carl is tall and impressive in size. I like him, although I doubt we would have become friends if it weren't for Anna and Sally's connection. Jackie and Trent live nearby, and I can't remember how we got so close. Jackie has a simple face, but a strong physique. She doesn't have Anna's soft curves, but possesses a natural slimness. She's smart, and I realize that of all our group, I have the most in common with her. Trent is a golfer, tall and thin. Trent's arrogance repelled me at first, but over time, I got used to it, although I still don't trust him. I can't deny, however, that he brings intelligence, humor, and energy to the parties. The doorbell rang, and the guests began to arrive. I had decided to move my financial planning practice to the city. I joined one of the firms there while continuing to practice in our coastal town, located just 2.5 hours away. My goal was to split my time between the two places, working in the city 1 week a month. During this week, I spent time at my parents' house, met with clients and potential clients, and everything went smoothly. I shared a room with an old college friend, Julian Lee, who worked as an IT specialist at a large bank. I was impressed by Julian's creativity and his choice of profession. Our apartment, located in the fashionable Map neighborhood near the city center, had 2 bedrooms. It was convenient for me to walk to work, and there were many restaurants, drinking establishments, and shops nearby. This area was undoubtedly youthful, modern, and stylish. It was in one of the trendy bars in the area that I first met Anna. Anna worked at Lucas, a trendy diner and bar located just a couple of blocks from our house. It was during our 3rd visit to this establishment with Julian that I struck up a conversation with Anna. She seemed to me like a rabbit from Playboy, radiating sensuality and beauty. That evening, Anna was serving at the bar, and we started talking. She asked about various aspects of my life, including my career goals and personal life. I was shocked by the interest she showed in me, considering that she was incredibly smart and I was just a humble financial planner. Back in high school, I had a steady girlfriend named Gail Benson. Gail was not only attractive but also smart, and it was nice to be around her. We tried to keep our relationship going in college, but in the end, it turned out to be too difficult. I dated a few girls during college, but I never had a steady girlfriend. When we were about to leave, I almost plucked up the courage to ask Anna out on a date. It seemed like she might be interested too, but I hesitated because I didn't want to be rejected and have to look for another place to hang out. My friend Julian encouraged me, saying she's very attractive. If you like her, go ahead. Just act fast before someone else does. Following his advice, I went to Lucas the next evening and made plans with Anna for Sunday evening. Our paths crossed again, and we finally met. I was a little nervous because I had never been with such an amazing woman like her, but she made it clear that she was interested in me. Soon, she took our relationship to a new level by initiating intimacy. Intimacy with Anna was a completely new and mind-blowing experience for me. Although I had already had partners like my high school girlfriend, Gail, I was still learning. Anna, on the other hand, was an expert in this field. Our time together was filled with exploration and experimentation. She led me through new experiences and taught me things I didn't know before. We engaged in various activities together, both individually and as a couple. She had attractive breasts and a slender body. Her body wasn't too heavy, but it remained soft and inviting. I've often wondered how experienced she was in these matters. Was she very experienced? I thought so, although I hesitated to bring up the topic of her intimate past, fearing that it might cause discomfort. Despite some anxiety, the feeling of satisfaction from being close to her overshadowed all my worries. The company gathered on the back porch of our house, having just finished dinner and enjoying a couple of glasses of wine. I was drinking my 3rd glass of red wine and had a long conversation with Carl about his ambition to become a manager at the diesel engine store where he worked. Carl mentioned that the store owner was deeply religious and asked me for advice on whether visiting his church would be a wise tactic to build a relationship with him. I told him that it might seem insincere if he didn't belong to any religion. He replied that he needed time to think about everything. While we were relaxing and chatting, Sally asked, "So, Anna, what's on our agenda today?" Anna hesitated before suggesting, "Let's keep an open mind and have some fun. How about a game of truth or dare?" Personally, I wasn't thrilled with the idea, but Carl, Sally, and Trent eagerly supported her with applause. I looked at Anna, who smiled back. I took a quick glance at Sally and noticed that Carl and Trent were grinning. Jackie was only half smiling, and like me, she didn't look too enthusiastic. The game began with a slight, intimate subtext, nothing too scandalous. Questions were asked about things like who your favorite movie star is, how old you are, and when you lost your virginity. When it was Trent's turn to ask, he chose Anna and she accepted the challenge. He suggested she take off either her shorts or her top. "Wait a minute," I said. "It's okay, I have underwear on. It's like a swimsuit," Anna explained. Anna liked to be the center of attention, and sometimes she crossed the boundaries of what was acceptable. I preferred to keep my emotions to myself, not wanting anyone to get too close. Anna quickly took off her top as she straightened up, a sense of pride evident on her face. Trent and Carl let out a whistle, while Sally giggled, encouraging her. Anna enjoyed the attention. I felt a twinge of anger, but kept my thoughts to myself. The situation continued without any problems until Sally decided to show off her completely without anything chest. Unlike me, her husband Carl supported her. She showed them, and they were undoubtedly large. Not my type, but large. Everyone except Jackie and me burst out laughing. I suggested we have one last round before ending the game. There were a few laughs and objections, but I was afraid things were getting too far. It was Anna's turn, and she dared Trent to show what was under his pants for 10 seconds. Jackie warned him not to do it, but Trent accepted the challenge. He stood up, took off his shorts and boxers, shocking both Anna and Sally. I was stunned, and Carl found the situation funny. He was spinning like a male stripper, attracting everyone's attention. Anna became fixated on him, and Jackie, clearly upset, announced that she was leaving. She gave Trent an ultimatum: get in the car with your clothes on or walk home. The party quickly broke up and came to an end. While we were cleaning up, Anna was unusually silent. I expressed my concern, saying that things had gone too far. "Everything was fun," she replied playfully. "Don't be so tactless." "Anna, everyone here was either without anything or almost including you," I said mockingly. "I'll show you the undressed ones," she replied, and began to undress, leaving me completely confused. Despite my misgivings about the party, I knew I would need to have a serious conversation about it the next day. I also made it clear that I didn't like it when my wife undressed in front of other men. Going to bed with a feeling of intimate satisfaction, but slight anxiety, I woke up early on Sunday morning and went for a run. While jogging, I mentally prepared for the conversation I intended to have with Anna. I wanted to make it clear that while I enjoy having a good time and going to parties, my wife and I have made a commitment to each other, and our bodies are just for the two of us. This oath was sacred to me, and I didn't want to compromise on it. When I got home, I found Anna laughing on the phone. She must have noticed me, because suddenly the laughter stopped, and the noise level dropped significantly. I could have sworn I heard her say, "Get undressed," before she realized I was there. "Who was that?" I asked. "Just Sally," she giggled. She and Carl really liked it, and they said that our party was the most fun they've been to so far. Speaking of which, I think we should discuss some of the events from last night, especially your actions. Anna was generally pleasant enough, but she didn't leave my mind for a long time after the party. After the party was over, I managed to bring it up. She explained to me that it was harmless, just fun, and that no one else was bothered by it. She reassured me that everything was fine. I tried to calm her down and express my emotions, but she was not receptive. After she got mad at me, there was a tense silence. While working in the yard, I reflected on my feelings. I sincerely thought that I had acted unwisely. I wanted to give her the opportunity to be herself. After all, it was her I fell in love with. I appreciated her independence, but when it came to intimacy, I wanted her to belong only to me, especially when it came to contemplating her body. I must admit, I felt a little insecure. Anna is an amazing, productive woman, and I consider myself a fairly average financial planner. I admit I'm not without attractiveness, and I take care of myself, but I know she constantly receives attention from different men. Although I have no reason to doubt her loyalty, before we tied the knot, there were several incidents that made me wary. It happened when we had been in a relationship for almost 3 months. Anna and I were close almost all the time we talked. I felt connected to her because we had several meaningful conversations during which I learned about her life. Her father abandoned the family, leaving her mother and older sister to fend for themselves. Anna has always craved male attention, and as she got older, she began to attract it. Although I didn't want to pry into her past, it was obvious she had lost her virginity early. She mentioned that she had boyfriends and casual relationships, describing them as friends she played with. Unsurprisingly, she never had any difficulty finding her next romantic interest. She craved attention and easily attracted men with her stunning looks. The following Saturday evening, we received an invitation to a party hosted by a casual acquaintance. Although we had not officially declared our exclusivity, I believed our relationship was special. She had confessed her love to me, and for me, love and exclusivity were interconnected. The December party had a slightly more formal dress code than usual. Anna's outfit left me speechless. Her red dress was so revealing that it seemed to defy gravity. "Do you like my dress?" she asked playfully. "You look stunning, but it's too much for such an event," I replied. I tried to explain that I was worried about the presence of potential clients, but Anna's reaction was unexpected. She was offended and thought I had called her trashy. It was obvious that she took her appearance very seriously. She expressed concern that she might put me in an awkward position, which was the reason for the delay. I apologized, and despite some tension, we eventually attended the party. She was wearing a stunning dress, and the house, located on the hills, was decorated with beautiful decorations and full of food and drinks. Among the guests were my work colleagues, college acquaintances, and members of the sports club. I recognized a face I knew from college, a man named McAllister. One of those cocky, attractive guys with a smug grin and smooth black hair. He was walking around with a glass of champagne in his hand. He exuded confidence. When he noticed Anna, who attracted the crowd with her alluring presence and revealing outfit, standing next to me, it seemed like she instantly increased my popularity among colleagues and acquaintances. I went out for a drink for a while, but when I returned, I found McAllister deep in conversation with Anna. He pretended I wasn't there. She enjoyed his attention. This charming guy clung to her every word, as if it was the most captivating thing he had ever heard. I managed to distract her for a while, but in the chaos of the party, we got separated. Eventually, Anna and I drifted apart. I talked to colleagues who gave me some valuable business advice, and then it dawned on me that it had been over an hour since I had last seen Anna. I quickly searched the living room, the kitchen, and the family room adjacent to the kitchen, but found nothing. Trying to keep my composure, I felt that I urgently needed to find her. McAllister was nowhere to be found either. When I went outside into the cold winter air, I noticed a group of people smoking, but Anna was not among them. Returning to the house, I heard her laughter coming from the street. Hurrying along the sidewalk, I finally noticed her and McAllister walking together. She did not immediately notice my approach. As I watched her and McAllister, it turned out that they were having a good time together. "Hey, honey, Jim just gave me a tour of his new BMW," she said. "Impressive," McAllister said with a laugh, talking about the car. When I looked at Anna, I didn't see anything particularly remarkable about her, just a few wrinkles. Although I forced myself to smile, everything inside me was boiling. Anna came over and hugged me as they approached. "I'm leaving," I announced. "I just wanted to clarify. Do you need a ride home?" "Of course you do," she replied. "And why not?" She gave me a questioning look. At that moment, McAllister came over and greeted me warmly. "Glad to see you again," he said, holding out his hand. Although I'm not a bodybuilder, I train regularly and have a strong grip. Angered by the arrogance of Anna and McAllister, I shook his hand firmly and easily overpowered him. Before he could fully grasp the situation, I was already gripping his hand tightly. His legs gave way, and he let out a soundless scream with his mouth open. "Darling, he's in pain," Anna exclaimed to Jim. "I'm sorry, it's my fault," I confessed, and without looking back, I went to the car. When I reached the car and fastened my seatbelt, she caught up with me. It was our first serious fight. I used to adore her. She was stunning, and our physical connection was second to none, or so it seemed to me. I realized that she craved attention and judged her worth by the validation she received from men. Our relationship had not been defined yet, but from my point of view, a constant physical connection where we regularly spent time together and talked about love was a mature form of communication. Although we never talked about it directly, when I left her, she gave me a questioning look. When I mentioned that I'd be staying with friends tonight, "Darn it, please don't worry. Nothing happened with Jim. We were just enjoying life," she said, but I felt it was time for me to finish things. I said goodbye and left. Despite her attempts to contact me, I decided to ignore her calls and messages. I immersed myself in work for a week before deciding to leave on Saturday morning rather than Sunday evening. I called my mom, who was glad that I was there for the weekend. My stay in my hometown was pleasant, and I successfully met with clients throughout the week. My professional endeavors, including a stable business on the coast and a growing business in the city, had led to success. I had achieved my financial goals and earned recognition in my organization. Until recently, my personal life was also going well, but everything changed when she began to persistently contact me through calls and messages to which I gave brief answers. Despite the fact that I informed her of my return on Friday evening, she surprised me by appearing on the doorstep as soon as I returned home. It was Anna. She was standing in front of me in a raincoat, holding a wrapped gift in her hands. "This is for you," she said, handing me a gift. When I opened it, I found an old-fashioned skeleton key inside. "You have the key to my heart," she said. I looked at her with a mixture of emotions. She unbuttoned her raincoat and revealed that she was Miss September, or any other Playboy heroine from my teenage fantasies. My resolve evaporated when desire took over. I started asking her about the events at the party with McAllister. I knew talking to Jim was a mistake, but he was kind, and yet there was nothing between us. He paid attention to me, but that's how I've always treated guys since I was young, she confessed. I admitted to her that I might be jealous. I told her that if she wasn't ready to become my partner, I would be disappointed, but I would accept it. I made it clear that I didn't play games when it came to relationships. I preferred either casual dates or full commitments. I explained to her that what we had was not just a casual affair. She climbed on top of me and assured me that she was ready for a relationship too. After confessing her love to me, she expressed her desire to be with me always. Then she started making love to me until I lost my head. Despite all the misunderstandings, Anna didn't hold a grudge. And the week after the truth or dare party, she continued to live as if nothing had changed. She was a passionate and alluring woman, the type of woman I fell in love with, and I was beginning to understand her better. I watched her closely, but nothing particularly remarkable happened. She seemed to pay more attention to me and communicate less with Sally, especially in my presence. One Saturday, while I was working in the yard, Trent walked by, which was not uncommon since he and Jackie lived nearby. He stopped, and we had a long conversation about lawns, fertilizers, and gardening. I offered him a drink, and we made ourselves comfortable in the backyard to continue the conversation. To an outsider, this might seem like an ordinary conversation, but Trent and I didn't have the closest relationship. He had a somewhat arrogant demeanor that didn't quite match mine, and we were connected only by mutual acquaintances. Our conversation mostly revolved around his children and his ex-wife, who was currently fighting a custody battle, which she won. There were certain moral principles in the custody agreement, and he had heard rumors that she might have violated some of these rules. This information seemed to him an ideal opportunity to get custody of his children. Because of his deep connection with them, he seemed more vulnerable, which was even funny. Maybe Trent wasn't as bad as he seemed. Surprisingly, he asked about Anna's whereabouts, and we had a heartfelt conversation about his family. I informed him that Anna had gone shopping, and we quickly moved on to discussing custody. A quarter of an hour passed, and then Anna appeared in a tight bikini to greet Trent and disappeared behind a screen at the southern edge of the backyard. She liked to bask in the sun in minimal clothes, and our curious neighbor, Henry Anderson, was watching what was happening. Anderson is a friendly person who keeps an eye on your site when you're not around and is always up to date with all the events in the area. He is reliable and trustworthy, just a little curious. Besides, he's my client, which is why I installed the lattice door. At this time, Trent was trying to catch Anna's eye, stumbling as he walked. I directed him to the exit, ending our conversation. As we passed through the gate, he called out to Anna, "Can I help you with the suntan lotion?" Anna's actions reminded me of another situation. Things had improved significantly since the McAllister incident. In fact, everything was going very well. From time to time, this incident would pop up in my memory, but I didn't feel the need to dwell on it. Since then, our relationship had moved to another stage. I tried to justify Anna's actions by reminding myself that we had no official relationship at the time of the incident. It was different now. We were completely devoted to each other. Anna showed me love and affection, making our time together enjoyable. Maybe our conversations weren't as deep as they were with my previous girlfriends, but we had a lot of fun together. She was open to any intimate experience and stunningly beautiful. I felt a sense of pride when I saw her in public. When she delicately talked about our future together, I couldn't help but wonder where we were going. It felt like getting behind the wheel of a Camry and suddenly finding myself in a Porsche. I was mentally struggling with doubts about whether it really suited me. The fleeting pleasure of all this excitement wouldn't last forever, but the dissenters were quick to brand me as crazy. After all, every man dreams of marrying a goddess. So what's the matter? I think the turning point in our dispute was the question of whether any other woman would be able to match Anna, both physically and intimately, if we had to break up. In my experience, no one has ever approached her. Additionally, I felt a strong affection for her incredible breasts. I decided to make an offer, and as a bonus, along with the ring, I gave her tickets for a vacation in the Caribbean. Anna was overjoyed. She was in love with the ring, and the trip was rapidly approaching. Excited, she called her mom in California to share the news, and also had a long conversation with her friend Sally. Then, I called my parents and shared the news with them. Although they seemed happy for me, there was a note of doubt in their voices. "Are you sure about this?" Dad asked. "Of course. Why do you ask?" I replied. "This is a serious decision," he warned. "Anna is a wonderful girl. I'm very happy for you," he reassured me. Then I realized there was a hint of indecision in his excitement. The resort turned out to be incredible. There was a swimming pool, many bars and restaurants, as well as a private beach with sun loungers and umbrellas. There was also a beach sports hut on the beach, where guests could rent kayaks, jet skis, and other water equipment. Upon arrival, Anna quickly changed into her swimsuit to walk along the shore. She had packed 3 different bikinis: hot, tight, and micro. I jokingly said that the mini bikini was created especially for her. "Let's see." She giggled as we grabbed drinks at the beach bar and strolled along the stunning crescent of white sand bordered by crystal clear blue water. Anna looked amazing in her chic bikini with a white, transparent cut that left no room for imagination and attracted attention wherever we went. I couldn't help but feel proud to be with her. After a leisurely walk, we decided to have dinner at the pool bar. We drank 2 more strong rum drinks and returned to the room. From the balcony, we watched the sunset together. We were both a little drunk, but happy in each other's company. Leaning against the railing, she bent at the waist as I approached her from behind, making her purr. Despite the impending darkness, I couldn't resist the temptation, spurred on by her reaction. The resort staff was vigilant, always ready to offer help with towels, directions, or food and drinks. Not to mention the constant attention of the beach boys. Any passerby could easily spy on our intimate moment. A group of young men in their 20s could be seen patrolling the deck chairs, probably working for tips. Their main clients were women over 40, who enjoyed the attention of these young men. They brought drinks, towels, rearranged sunbeds or umbrellas, and even applied suntan lotion at the request of the customers. Of course, they were especially attracted to Anna, who sported a revealing bikini and radiated undeniable attractiveness. Among the beach boys, Cruz was constantly lingering nearby, perhaps captivated by Anna's allure. His skin was smooth and golden, his physique slender, and his smile radiant with pearly white teeth. One day, when we were walking along the beach, I invited Anna to go on a jet ski. "Let's do it without me," she replied. "I want to work on my tan." I went for a fun hour-long jet ski session, and Anna stayed behind. "Have fun and be careful," she told me. It was a lot of fun to ride a jet ski on the ocean, and I returned to the beach a little less than an hour later. When I returned to the deck chairs, I noticed that Cruz was standing over Anna and massaging her bare back. It turned out that he was also touching the sides of her breasts. Confused and worried, I approached them. Cruz quickly stood up and explained that he was just trying to prevent Anna from getting sunburned and was applying sunscreen to her back. Anna quickly waved him off and asked me what was going on. I quietly but firmly told her about the situation. I didn't want to make a scene on the beach, but it was obvious that the beach guy was groping her. I noticed that her top was unbuttoned, and only a small amount of material covered her buttocks, giving the teenager easy access to her body. I asked if he had touched her breasts. She reassured me, saying that maybe he had touched the sides a little, but her bust was meant only for me. I invited her to take a nap together, knowing that she understood my true intentions. When our vacation came to an end, we discussed our future wedding plans on the way home. Anna fell asleep during the flight, and I found myself remembering our amazing journey. Despite trying to move on, I couldn't get rid of the memories of how a Latino man on the beach had inappropriately touched her. After Trent visited us over the weekend, life went on as usual. My job combined stress and satisfaction. The salary was decent, and my investments were growing. Anna continued to work at Luke's bar, mostly on lunch shifts as a waitress. This schedule allowed us to spend more time together in the evenings. Although Anna didn't have to work, she enjoyed it and appreciated having her own income. Summer was approaching, and Anna and Sally began discussing plans for the next meeting of our group of friends. After the truth or dare party at our house, I had hoped that the frequency of such meetings would begin to decrease. But after much discussion and coordination, it was decided that the next event would be held at Trent and Jackie's house in mid-July. If the weather was favorable, it was planned to have a pool party. When I found out about this, I immediately informed Anna that she would be wearing a red bikini, not the Caribbean one. She flatly refused, saying that there was no chance of that. It's one thing to be seen like this by outsiders, but not by our friends. She didn't talk about it anymore, and I decided that the matter was settled. On the Tuesday before the party, my mom called me in a panic. My father had had a heart attack and was in the county hospital awaiting bypass surgery. I promised my mom I would come soon and quickly informed Anna about the situation. I rushed home, packed an overnight bag for both of us, and went to the hospital. We got to my parents' house and then drove quickly to the hospital. I had to fight the urge to speed, worrying about my father's health. Anna held my hand, comforting me. I was worried about both parents, especially knowing how much Mom depended on Dad's strength. Since his health was at risk, I was concerned about how she would cope. When we finally arrived at the hospital and found my mother, the situation had improved significantly. My father had suffered a mild heart attack, but the bypass surgery was successful, and the doctor was very optimistic about his chances of a full recovery. They planned to keep him in the hospital until Thursday and then discharge him home. I spent Tuesday evening with him at the hospital, while Mom and Anna returned to the house to rest a little. On Wednesday morning, they returned to find my father in high spirits, working on a crossword puzzle in bed. We spent the whole day at the hospital, which turned out to be quite boring in the end. Although Anna was polite, it was clear that she didn't want to stay at the hospital for long. I can't blame her, as hospitals can be quite depressing. After bringing Dad home on Thursday, I suggested that Anna go home and either come back for me over the weekend or take Dad's car, since he wouldn't be driving for a while. "No, I'll stay with you," she insisted. "Thank you, Anna. I appreciate it, but you'd better go home," I replied. I convinced her that she needed to get comfortable and that I only needed to be with my parents for a few days. Reluctantly, she agreed and left. On Thursday afternoon, I spent most of the day helping my dad get comfortable, running errands to the grocery store, and helping my mom whenever possible. I also spent time with my dad watching a few baseball games on TV. It might have been a little boring, but I was grateful to be with my parents. On Friday, Anna called and asked when I would be coming home. I informed her that it wouldn't be until at least Sunday. "I completely forgot about the party," I said. "I'm sorry, but I need to stay with my parents." "Will you come?" she asked. "I'm not sure. Sally wants me to go, and I heard that Jackie's sister and her boyfriend might be there too. I'm not sure about Trent, but with new people, I'm not as worried about things getting out of control like they did at the last party at our house. Just let me know your decision. I'll call you tomorrow," she said. On Saturday, my father looked a little depressed, perhaps because he had overloaded himself the day before and was feeling tired. I spent some time with him until he fell asleep, then took the initiative to help Mom by fixing a few things around the house. In the end, Mom made me take a break for dinner, and Dad continued to rest. After dinner, I busied myself carrying things upstairs and putting them on the shelves. When I'm focused on a project, I usually lose track of time. Suddenly, I looked at my phone and realized it was almost 10 o'clock. I quickly dialed Anna's number and asked her what was going on, as I heard some background noise. "Hi, love. I'm visiting Trent and Jackie. We're doing great. Dad's fine. She was interrupted by a loud scream followed by Anna's laughter. What's going on? What's funny, honey? I asked. She kept giggling, and I asked, how much did you drink? Sorry, the connection is bad. Can I call you back? She said with another laugh in the background. Suddenly, I heard Trent say, take off that top too. And then there was even more laughter. There were muffled conversations in the room, and the situation was heating up. I could have sworn that Anna had made that comment. I was trying to figure out what was going on. It seemed that Anna's phone had disconnected, but it was clear they weren't playing a game. It was already late, and if I left now, it would be well past midnight. Despite my fatigue, I didn't dare to go home, feeling a strong desire to stay and find out what was going on. Then an unexpected thought came to my mind. Henry Anderson. He was in my contacts, so I decided to call him. I asked him to take some pictures of Trent and Jackie's house, explaining that I needed visual effects. He was ready, and I gave him their address and instructions on where to set up a backyard shoot. He assured me he would go there immediately. After finishing our conversation, I turned off the phone and went to bed. I didn't want to dwell on Trent's possible troubles that night. My mind and body were exhausted from worrying about my father, and I fell asleep quickly. When I woke up the next morning, I turned on my phone. Anderson had sent me some photos that turned out to be even more shocking than I expected. In the first photo, Anna was without clothes, and Trent was watching her. In the second photo, Carl was touching Anna's chest. In the third photo, Anna and Sally were dancing back to back. In the fourth photo, Trent was with Anna, and Carl was waiting for his turn. That was all the evidence I needed to confirm Anna's infidelity. I had noticed warning signs before, but I never thought she'd actually go through with it. What she did was unforgivable. My mind was clouded by a dark fog, and I was struggling to process the situation. I lied to my mom, saying I was going for a walk. She asked if everything was okay, and I assured her that everything was fine. I didn't want to burden her with the chaos caused by my father's health problems. As I walked, my mind was consumed with thoughts and emotions. I cried, planned, and thought it through. It took several hours before I finally returned home. Although I was overwhelmed with sadness, I was determined to end the marriage, protect my finances, and take revenge on Trent and Carl. Before I could act, I needed to gather all the information and keep Anna in the dark about my plans. When Anna called around noon, she was very affectionate and said she missed me, like a father misses his child. Despite her sweet words, I couldn't shake the suspicion that she had been unfaithful at the party. Having decided to take revenge, I fell silent and concentrated on finding a way to turn the situation to my advantage. I needed to develop a plan to protect myself and my assets. To keep up appearances, I had to behave normally around Anna. I falsely informed her that my father's condition was deteriorating, which made me stay late. In reality, everything was fine with my father, and his condition was improving ahead of schedule. I told Anna it would be better for her not to come, and promised to call her instead. Seeing my father struggling with excitement, I secretly left for the city. On Monday evening, I contacted my former neighbor, Julian, to see if I could stay with him for a few days. He was stunned, but eventually agreed. When I got through to Julian, he mentioned that his brother, an actor, was coming from New York on Thursday. His brother was thinking about changing careers after finishing his play. I told Julian everything about the situation and presented the evidence. He was shocked. Knowing Anna's flirtatious nature, he didn't expect her to betray me. Julian expressed his disappointment and said he understood my desire to take revenge on Anna and her accomplice. I trusted Julian, and I told him I had to keep the information about Anna to myself until I developed a plan. He promised to keep quiet about it. The next day, I was waiting for Carl at his workplace. Carl, a diesel engine repair mechanic, had mentioned that there was a vacancy for a boss at the company, and he was eager for the promotion. When he came up to his truck, I waved at him and offered him a beer. He was taken aback by my presence, but Carl rarely refused a drink. We found the nearest tavern, which was relatively empty. While we were sipping beer, I asked him about the events of Saturday night. Carl calmly replied that it had been an ordinary party. I showed him a photo from that night, and he dismissively explained that the girls had undressed, but there was nothing wrong with that. I supported his answer by asking how his boss would react to the situation. I knew Carl's boss was very religious, and Carl was hoping for the promotion. When he got up, I got up too. He pushed me aggressively, but I hit him back. The kick was smooth, like hitting a softball, and he instantly collapsed to the floor without offering any resistance. I've always noticed that bullies usually turn into cowards when confronted. Carl was defeated. I reached out to help him up, and the altercation happened so quickly that no one in the bar paid any attention to it. And if they did, they didn't show any concern. He started apologizing and shifting the blame to others. I told him to shut up and pay attention because I had a few questions. I also warned him that in order for his boss not to see the photos, he had to answer all my questions truthfully without letting anyone, especially Anna and Sally, know that I was aware of the situation. Reluctantly, he agreed, seemingly desperate to protect the photos from his boss. We sat together for over an hour, during which I got a better sense of Anna's character. His explanations were convincing and strangely logical. Anna, Sally, and Carl had been classmates in school, which had a mixed group of students from different socioeconomic backgrounds. In their group of friends, Anna and Sally came from a lower-income background. As they matured, they increasingly noticed the differences in their parents' clothes, housing conditions, and cars compared to their more affluent peers. More affluent students often ridiculed Anna and Sally for their outdated clothes and old cars, but these differences served as a unifying factor for the girls. Both Anna and Sally had impressive bodies. Anna was beautiful, and Sally, although a little overweight, had impressively large breasts. The girls were popular, and Carl suspected that both of them had lost their virginity before the others in high school. Sally shared with him a conversation she had with Anna, in which Anna expressed a desire to have beautiful clothes, a car, and a luxurious house. She enjoyed intimate relationships and was willing to exchange them for material goods without any problems. She was determined to find a wealthy man who could provide for her. Carl informed me that when Anna and I started dating, she was already in a relationship with another man. She confessed to Sally that she thought I was more promising. Even though she was with me, she continued dating her boyfriend for almost 3 months before they broke up. Wait, so she slept with both me and her ex-boyfriend for 3 months? I exclaimed. Yeah, Carl replied. Damn it, I muttered. Since you tied the knot, I've learned about at least 2 other men she's dated besides Trent and me. Who are they? I don't have all the details, but one of them was a guy named Malum or something like that. She mentioned that you know him. This must be the jerk Mallister we saw at the pre-wedding party, I said, my blood boiling with anger. Carl didn't seem bothered at all, just casually sipping his beer. Then I realized I could no longer live in this marriage. I needed to come up with a plan. Do you think if a man with a lot of wealth, a beautiful car, and a big house appeared, Anna would immediately turn her attention to him? I asked. I think that would be the case, Carl said after thinking for a while. I then asked about Saturday night. What happened to Jackie? Was she part of the situation? I noticed she wasn't in the photos. It turned out that Jackie's sister's boyfriend had been behaving badly and suddenly left. Jackie's sister was upset, so Jackie walked her home and stayed with her. This allowed the rest of the party to continue celebrating. Jackie is not aware of the situation, Carl explained. I don't want Jackie to know. Carl and Sally's relationship is not a husband and wife relationship, despite the fact that she calls him her husband. Carl has no plans to marry Sally, and the lack of children in their relationship is due to his decision not to marry her. I need time to think about everything, I said. I have a lot to think about. Anna's promiscuity wasn't the only problem in our relationship. She was with me primarily for financial security, and I knew she would leave if there was a better opportunity. Only Carl knew the truth, and I intended to keep it a secret. Despite his flaws, Carl seemed to understand women better than I did. I confided in Julian, feeling a mixture of sadness and anger as I recounted everything Carl had told me. At that moment, I felt humiliated. I couldn't help but wonder how many people were secretly laughing at me. I knew I had to talk about it with her, and maybe with other people. Julian asked briefly, then put on his headphones and focused on his work. I sat sipping red wine and felt my anger grow. Julian interrupted me by asking, "Has she ever met John Paul?" I confirmed that she hadn't, mentioning that even I hadn't seen him since college. "Why?" I asked. He shook his head, then nodded. Can you get $330,000? Yes, but why? I asked. I also need you to rent a BMW for 6 months, he said with a sly smile as he continued typing. Finally, he revealed his plan. According to Julian, I had to spend at least $30,000 and rent a BMW. He told me to go to Anna's house the next day and give the best performance of my life, pretending everything was fine. I was planning to meet Julian and John Paul at Julian's apartment on Thursday after work. The next day, I called Anna and assured her that I would be home in the evening. I tried to behave as usual, dismissing her concerns by saying that I was still worried about my father. Fortunately, either I was a better actor than I thought, or Anna just ignored me. Thursday evening came, and I found myself in Julian's apartment with Julian and John Paul. After some small talk, Julian outlined his scheme. John Paul had to pretend to be a rich New York investment banker in order to seduce Anna. Reluctantly, he would have to reveal his wealth and charm her, so she would fall in love with him and his money. Since John Paul was scheduled to star in a play in 5 months, he had limited time to implement the plan. John Paul was 2 years younger than Julian, a handsome man with long hair, a slim build, and a charming smile. She was destined to be attracted to him. I have to ask you something, John Paul said. Do you mind if I have an intimate relationship with her? I know she's your wife. I assured him that I didn't mind and predicted that they would be together in just 5 days, not 5 months. I gave him her work schedule at the bar and suggested that we meet weekly. I try not to get into trouble. John Paul had to play his role, and I had to play the role of a naive and devoted husband. The week went smoothly without any mistakes or mishaps on my part. I made a conscious effort not to notice any differences in Anna. We made love because it was a normal aspect of our relationship. The positive aspect was that our lovemaking wasn't a slow, romantic affair. It was more of a physical contest, satisfying and exhausting at the same time. On Thursday evening, we gathered at Julian's, looking forward to the news. I had a strong desire to ask her out on a date with John Paul, but some part of me secretly wished she wouldn't do it. John Paul came to the bar 3 times, each time with different intentions. The first time, he just wanted to get her attention. The second time, he wanted to start a light conversation and make a joke. The third time, they finally met. She mentioned that she would be working from 11 to 3 o'clock tomorrow, so I planned to surprise her with a late lunch and coffee at 2 o'clock. To prepare for this, I had to fork out $1,200 for a suit to fit the role I was playing. The next week was spent in the usual routine of work and home. Nevertheless, my thoughts were constantly occupied with Anna and John Paul. One evening, I noticed that Anna was coming home late, and I couldn't help but speculate about the reasons for this. It was like looking forward to another episode of your favorite TV show. I was eager to hear from John Paul on Thursday evening. According to him, they met for a cup of coffee on Friday. Anna admitted that she was married, but hinted that there were difficulties in her marriage and that she seemed ready for something more. She mentioned that she had a day off on Tuesday and decided to meet him for lunch. John Paul subtly hinted at his wealth, making references throughout their conversation. As life with Anna developed, I began to feel the distance between us. When I returned home from work on Tuesday, Anna was not there. I went for a run and came back to find that she was still missing. While I was cooking dinner, she finally came home. "Hi, honey, how was your day?" she asked. I couldn't help but feel intrigued by the situation. "It was stressful. I was working late," she replied. I asked her what she had been doing lately, and she started making up a story about her job. I could feel the distance growing between us. Despite this, our physical connection remained satisfactory. Looking back, I can say that our intimacy lacked emotional depth, so it was easy to pretend. Wanting to make her life easier, I mentioned that my father needed help and that I would be leaving on Friday afternoon. She hesitantly offered to join me, but I assured her that it was not necessary. Initially, I planned to help out a bit and then stay the next week to meet with clients, but on Thursday night, everything went awry when I found out that John Paul was on the right track. A simple lunch on Tuesday suddenly turned into a passionate kissing session. On Wednesday, when he found out I wouldn't be there, he contacted her, and they agreed to meet on Friday evening. It seemed that I was managing their interaction from behind the scenes, subtly guiding their relationship in the direction I needed, and it worked. With each passing week, their bond grew deeper. That weekend, while I was visiting my parents, Anna and John Paul began an affair, which was not unexpected. Our relationship at home was changing, and Anna was becoming more and more distant. For me, it was a mix of emotions. From time to time, I caught glimpses of the woman I used to love, and it filled me with sadness. 3 months later, John Paul began to confess his love to Anna and urged her to be with him. By that time, Anna was sure that John Paul was a wealthy New York investment banker with a luxury apartment in Manhattan. Anna answered questions about her husband evasively, saying only that their relationship was over and that she had begun to move on, although she had not yet discussed it with me. Later, she mentioned that she and Sally were planning to go to a resort in California for the weekend and asked for my permission. I knew John Paul had invited her to Sunny Valley for the weekend. "Of course you'll like it," I replied. I had a feeling that John Paul would ask a question at the resort in Idaho. The cubic zirconia engagement ring he gave her cost almost $500. Cubic zirconia is known for its similarity to natural diamonds, so I had no reason to doubt John Paul's intentions, assuming that he was wealthy. The following Thursday, I found out about their romantic trip to Sunny Valley, where he proposed and she replied yes. She confessed to John Paul that she needed to end her relationship with me and that he was not averse to tying the knot as soon as possible. He informed her that he had to return to New York in 2 months, which was true, and asked her to be with him, although that part wasn't true. Anna assured John Paul that she would discuss the divorce with me next week. My strategy was to resist her departure and pretend that I didn't want her to leave, planning to keep all my assets in the divorce. The plan worked flawlessly. Upon learning of Anna's decision to leave, I was surprised, saddened, and understandably upset. "We are married. I will not let you leave, and I refuse to consider the idea of divorce," I said, insisting on several months of consultations to solve our problems. My acting skills were at their best, and I made it clear that I had no intention of letting her go without a fight. But when she met John Paul in a luxury apartment that I had financed, she realized that I wouldn't let her go easily. "Anna, dear, I have all the riches that we can only dream of. I have a city apartment, and I'm looking for a beach house on Long Island. All I need for a perfect life is you as my wife," John Paul confessed. She couldn't stop thinking about the dollar signs spinning in her head. The man offered her husband a deal. His lawyer would draw up a document protecting all his property in exchange for an immediate divorce. She readily agreed. When I got home, I alternated between being angry and begging her to stay. I insisted on several months of consultations before she could leave, knowing that she wanted to be with a millionaire as soon as possible. On Friday evening, she returned home with the divorce document in her hands. The document granted her the right to an immediate divorce, as well as a waiver of any claims to my property, including our house, car, and all my investments. I put on a dramatic show, screamed, begged, and declared that I would never let her go. In the end, I insisted on being left alone in the basement. While she thought I was sinking into sadness and despair, I was actually watching a baseball game. When I finally came out with tears in my eyes, I secretly hid some Vicodin pills. I left the house with the signed document in my hands, feeling a sense of duty. She showed decency and did not celebrate in my presence, but I couldn't help but notice her triumphant gait as she left. It was the middle of September, and the date for our official divorce was set for the 5th of October. She gave up any rights to my property and planned to move to New York, where she was supposed to get married by the end of October. That Thursday, we met at Julian's to finalize the details of our breakup. That's how our plan unfolded. When they left on Friday, she planned to return to our house to pick up her things. John Paul assured Anna that he would meet her there at noon with a truck to help transport her clothes and furniture. Then, they would send her things to his house in New York with the help of a shipping company. But while Anna was waiting with her things, John Paul would have already left. He said his last name was Taylor, so it would be difficult and expensive to find him. Unfortunately, Anna didn't have the means to do this. "You have a bit of a violent reputation," John Paul remarked to me. "I disagree? It's nothing compared to how cruel she treated me. I understand. I hope you won't be offended if I say this, but I will miss this woman very much. She was one of a kind. Yes, I'll miss her too," I sighed. My relationship with Anna was cordial, although several times I had to pretend that I was sorry. I didn't try to convince her to stay with me, fearing that she would actually agree. I arrived home on Friday and found her packing. Although I briefly considered making one last attempt to sleep with her, I eventually decided against it. She was dressed as if she needed to go somewhere, and of course, she thought so. Around 12:30, she tried to call John Paul, but found that the number was no longer in service. Then she asked to use my phone, but with the same result. Finally, she contacted the luxury condominium and found out that her accommodation was paid for until Saturday. After that, the apartment would be rented out again. She asked me to leave her things with me while she returned to the condo to check if John Paul would be late. I didn't talk to her until the end of the weekend. It was time for the second phase of the plan. I sent out 3 packages with photos from an intimate party that took place while I was with my father. Trent, Sally, Carl, and Anna were clearly visible in every picture. The first package was sent to Carl's religious boss. The photos were accompanied by notes with personal messages. One of them asked whether a person's moral character affects the quality of his work. Another note expressed relief that the children were with Trent's ex-wife. The third note said that he had missed a humorous moment at the party and told Jackie some news, saying that she deserved to know it when everything settled down. Would you like a drink? I made sure to include my name and phone number on all entries. There was one more unfinished task to deal with Malister. Maybe I'll ask Julian to deal with him too. Anna tried to restore our relationship, but there was no chance of reconciliation. The following Monday evening, she showed up at my door looking like she had just returned from work. I'm sorry for our misunderstanding. I'm back for good, she said. I just stared at her, unable to believe her audacity. Anna, you've ruined my life. I screamed. This is not your home anymore. You're going to New York with someone else. She denied it, insisting that she had changed her mind and wanted to stay with me. But I knew better than to believe her words. No more games, I said coldly. Forget about it. Go away and never come back. She resorted to her old tactic. She took off her top and unbuttoned her bra. I had fallen for this bait too often to fall for it now. Closing the door in her face, I added, "Give my regards to John Paul." Looking out the window, I saw that she was standing with an empty expression on her face, exposing her beautiful breasts to everyone and frowning. She was trying to decipher the meaning of my mention of John Paul. Throughout our conversation, his identity had remained confidential. Suddenly, Henry Anderson peeked out from behind the fence and gave her a menacing look. There were rumors that Anna had been living with Sally for a while. Not only did Carl not get a promotion, but as I heard, he was also fired from his job. He left town, leaving Sally and Trent's custody case behind. Cody's hearing was a completely different story. He was decisively and unequivocally denied the right to custody. Moreover, the court not only increased the amount of alimony, but also limited his dating rights. The photos played an important role in this decision. One Saturday night, Jackie called me in a panic and informed me that Trent, drunk and armed, was heading to my house after discovering the source of some messages. In a hurry, I went to the backyard, gathered blankets and pillows, and arranged the body of a mannequin under the blanket to give the impression that I was outside reading on a chaise longue. I left the dim light on to signal him and held the baseball bat while crouching in the dense foliage. Even without Jackie's call, I would have known he was coming. He knocked on the front door, and when I didn't answer, he went out into the yard. He quickly noticed the chaise longue I had set up, and as he approached, I hit him twice. The first blow probably broke his arm, but my first priority was to disarm him. I decided to defuse this weapon as well. After that, I contacted the authorities. Given the presence of weapons and gunfire, no separate investigation was required. I was just acting in self-defense, and eventually, Trent was charged with attempted murder. I contacted Jackie to express my gratitude for the warning. "You're welcome," she replied. "By the way, did you say you wanted something to drink?" 2 years later, Jackie and I had built a relationship and were planning to get engaged soon. Anna continued to call me for a long time, asking for forgiveness. But a year ago, she stopped her calls and attempts to reach me. As it turned out later, Anna had been poor for a long time. She wandered from one friend to another in search of housing, and now she is in the worst condition I could have imagined. Anna suffered a spinal injury during an unsuccessful abduction when she was hiding from her lover's furious wife. Her thirst for wealth ruined her life.